That looks good. I like that. Yeah.
You can see our little gay ass artwork in the back. I feel like I should just like walk you around the house so I can show you all of our queer artwork.
Give a little
House
tour.
tour. Here's all the queer stuff that we have.
This is our recent addition.
I'm so
And
sorry.
it's
You're
about
gonna
two
have to.
lesbian.
Scoot it over more. Yeah.
Oh,
Is this like
There
a
you go.
children's
yeah, it's a
book?
book. It's two lesbian mom. Yeah, it's two lesbian mom takes their like kid to Pride, and the daughter is basically like scared to go into like the Pride parade because she's like, but I'm not gay, like I can't be over there. And the parents are like, that's not Pride. That's not what Pride is about. It's about being yourself. And then like she has so much fun in the Pride parade. It's so cute. I teared up a little bit.
That's so cute. When Em and I, our niece was born, we got her this really cute book with like, I think like it's like an MLM couple, but like I think one guy is gay and the other person's like non-binary or something. But it's called Bathe the Cat, and basically like they just get like they're trying to bathe their cat, and it's just wacky and crazy. But it was so funny because we got it because it looks like the dad, like M's brother, and we're like, not that we're saying that he's gay, but
Uh,
look, representation. It looks like you.
right? That's funny.
Welcome to Two Guys Unfiltered, a podcast where we let LGBTQ people like you share their story, the funny ones, the hard ones, and everything in between. I'm Juju.
And I'm August. So whether you're part of the community or just here to listen, we're glad you're here. Our guest today is Evelyn, my cousin. They shared their experience being non binary and how their gender expression helps to navigate the world around us. So we want to know from you guys, what are some questions you have about T4T relationships? Is there anything you are curious about? Leave your comments or answers in the comments below, and we will be sure to bring them up in a future episode. Now let's get into it. All right, Evelyn, if you can you give us a little introduction of who you are?
Yeah, my name's Evelyn. I use they and she pronouns. I'm a non-binary trans masc individual. I just turned 24, which is so crazy. I feel so old and so young at the same time. I live in like Long Beach area right now. I live with my partner of 5 years and their family. And what else? I'm a Libra sun and a Virgo moon and a Scorpio rising. So that means I'm actually just very crazy. And I work as a phlebotomist, which is really fun. And right now I'm actually in school to be a doula. So it's very fun to be into like birth work while being a queer person. That I'm like very feminine in a lot of ways, but I don't identify as like a feminine person necessarily. So that's a very interesting like sphere to investigate. But yeah, I'm just very excited to be here today.
Hey, how did you get into wanting to be a doula?
Uh, okay, so basically, I am the youngest of three. I have two older brothers, but because I'm the only person that was like raised as a girl, that basically just means that I'm the eldest daughter, right? So I'm also one of the oldest like cousins in like my like from like my grandparents. So basically, I was just free child labor for cooking and cleaning and like babysitting for the first like 10 years of my life. And I loved it. I loved to feel important and I loved given to be given like a little task, you know? So to give like a 10-year-old a task and be like, make sure that this baby doesn't die, I ate that shit up. My mom, my mom has also been in early childhood education ever since I was a kid. So like I was always doing like little teacher things anyways with my mom. So I really grew up in like a very important place where kids were not only underserved but like disrespected or kind of like ignored because my mom specifically worked with kids that were like through Head Start, which is like a government program for preschoolers that are like low income. So I like literally remember my mom picking me up late from school because she was like, yo, like my kids, my like children at school were not picked up on time because like their parents are like
Damn.
single. And she's like, that's why I'm here at 5 p.m. and you got out at like 2:15. And I'm like, okay, that's important, I guess. So I always like
Yeah.
grew up knowing that kids like got things really shitty and like shittier than me, and that like education was really important, especially like 0 to 5. So, like, I really cared a lot, I think, about, like, children. Like, even when I was a kid, I was just like, "Ooh, you're, like, mentally ill. Like, that's not good. We need resources for you." I think I was very just like, "Damn, it really sucks to be a kid and to have, like, shitty parents and to, like, not get the help that you need."
Mhm.
So, I was very just, like, called to help kids, and for a long time, I did think that I want to be, like, a teacher or, like, a pediatrician or something, and then I think as I started getting older, a lot of people were just like, "Oh, like, you wanna be a mom, right? Like, when you have kids," and they started kinda just telling me like, "Oh, like, you'll get it when you're a mom one day," and I was just like, "That doesn't really resonate with me." Like, the idea of having my
I don't
own.
like that word.
Yeah, and, like, I think not just, like, the taking care of kids part wasn't, like, what freaked me out. I think for me, it's just that, like, I didn't wanna take them home. Like, I want to leave them in the workplace. I want.
Give 'em back.
Yeah, but, like,
Yeah.
I think it's a double-edged sword, but, like, taking care of, like, my sibling or, like, my little cousins and stuff, like, that was a lot of responsibility as a kid, but it also made me really value, like, the community members that were surrounded or that parents should surround themselves with, and I kinda realized where I was like, "You
Mhm.
know what? I'm, like, a very much a certified auntie deal kind of individual," and I think as I started getting older, I mean, like, 2016, Trump was elected, and I was just like, "Oh my god, women's rights," you know? And I was, like, on Tumblr in 2012, and I was like, "I'm learning so much, like, what is feminism?" So I actually started volunteering at Planned Parenthood when I was in high school, and then I was just like, "Oh, like, there's people who work with kids or people who are going to have kids, and that's, like, equally as important as, like, education or, like, working in other kinds of healthcare." And then, yeah, I just got introduced to, like, being a doula there, which a doula is basically a birth worker. They're not, like they don't have, like, a medical degree, but they basically have a lot of, like, physical, emotional, spiritual, like, medical knowledge, and they're there to support the person
Okay.
that's giving birth. So they're not allowed to do, like, C-sections or to perform, like, medical things necessarily, but they're there as, like, an advocate. They're there as somebody to help, like, guide you and support you pre, during, and postpartum, basically. So you can have a doula while you're pregnant, while you give birth, and up to 2 years after giving birth, because 2 year postpartum is considered 2 years after you have a baby. And basically, like, a lot of people would already have this person in their lives because it would be like their mom, like their aunt, maybe like a woman in their community who, like, didn't have kids, but they helped a lot with, like, helping people give birth. So this was kind of, like, very much tied to, like, ancestral and, like, cultural knowledge as well. So, like, the role of a doula can really vary by, like, your specific culture as well. But
Right.
basically, big science happened and white men, decided to take over science and, like, be like, "Oh, I need to make a hypothesis. No, bitch, we need to be drinking, like, tea that supports our bodies, you know? We don't necessarily have to, like, write everything down. We just know that it works and it works for us." And I think that there's also just, like, a lot of men who try to control women's bodies as well, or just people
Mhm.
with uteruses. So I think doulas have been coming back, and doula work in particular is really important to me just because it's actually covered by Medi-Cal now in California. So if you're on Medi-Cal, you can actually get a prescription for a doula. It's still very restrictive. It's still kind of hard to access. But there is, like, efforts into making it easier and more accessible for people. So that's, like, really the sphere that I want to work with, like, queer parents in LA County who are, like, navigating birth. And I think it's, like, really, really helpful and beautiful.
That's cool. I didn't know that was a thing, like, as a position or
Yeah, a lot of people don't. It's just kind of like, oh, go to the doctor, see, like, your gynecologist, pop out a baby,
Mhm.
and then come for, like, follow-ups. But I think a lot of times,
Yeah.
like, the person giving birth, like, can get left behind in all of this because, like, we live in a society that sees women's bodies as, like, vehicles essentially for reproducing, not as, like, a
Right.
human being.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, what is that human being going through for 9 months and then up to 2 years after they
Mhm.
give birth?
Right. Yeah. The focus is always on the baby and the health of the baby, but it's like, well, what about the person carrying the baby? Like, that's important too,
Yeah.
Right.
right? Well, can you give us a little summary of your coming out story? When did you come out?
Uh, yeah, so for me, I think I always had, like, an internal sense of, like, being queer. I feel like I was, like I mean, I was raised by, like, parents who I think they projected the idea of, like, tomboy onto me, but, like, when I reflect back on my childhood, I was kind of just like, "You had, like, a little boy you had 3 little boys, like, that was not a little tomboy, that wasn't like, oh, like, she's a girl that wants to have short hair. Like, no, that was a young lad there. But
I say the same thing.
yeah, and I think they were just so like, "Oh, it's because she has 2 older brothers, like, she's just so
Mm.
influenced by them," and I was just like, "If y'all were paying attention, I was leading the pack here," but, you know, I don't think they wanna admit that at all, but I think I always just had, like, an internal sense of, like, knowing that I was, like, very different, not just, like, in my behavior necessarily, but, like, in the way that I dressed, in, like, the hairstyles that I was into. I also went to private Catholic school for preschool through 8th grade, so I feel like this difference was, like,
Wow.
immensely, like, just projected because of, like, the classmates that I had. Um, so, like, yeah, preschool through 4th grade, it was, like, a Catholic school that was, like, predominantly Latino. So, even though I'm also, like, Latino, it was very interesting to see how I think, like, Catholicism really took, like, a big part because also as a kid, like, I went to Catholic school, I was not Catholic, and I knew that. I was telling my parents where I'm like, "Did you know that God's not real?" at, like, 8? And they were just like, "What are you talking about?" "Yes, he is." And I was like, "Okay, you live in your Delulu
Prove it
land."
to me.
Yeah, pretty much, and I went to, like, church every week, and I was forced to wear a skirt, and it was awful, and then from 5th to 8th grade, I went to a Catholic school with predominantly white people, so that was very interesting, and I think it's really funny because in both settings, I was called demonic or a devil worshiper, which I think
Mm.
speaks a lot about me as an individual. Yeah, like, I just always had this, like, sense of, like, otherness that wasn't necessarily, like, tied to, like, my gender or sexuality, but I think it was, like, a big part of it, and I knew, like I think, like, as early as, like, 3rd or 4th grade that, like, I thought girls were pretty, and, like, it didn't freak me out, like, I really didn't have, like, a crisis over this, like, I was just like, "Yeah, because everybody's pretty," like, that's just
Mhm.
humans, you know? That really didn't freak me out, and I think once I started hitting, like 8th grade, 9th grade, I was just like, "Oh, like, sex? That is, like, a thing?" And I was like, yeah, like, that doesn't really freak me out." And I do remember, like, I had a cousin on my mom's side of the family, and she's only, like, 2 years younger than me, and I remember telling her because, like, as I mentioned, Tumblr 2012, I was there, and I just was like a crazy time because I started learning crazy things and like different sexualities and genders. And like a lot of people were just like exposing me to things, which was really cool. So, like, I think I was literally like 12, and I'm like, yeah, I'm pansexual. And like, I've identified as pansexual like literally since I was 12. Like, that has not wavered. And I remember like finding that out and telling this cousin where I'm like, hey, like, I found out this like new thing and like this feels right. And I told her, and she freaked out, I guess, and she told her mom, who told my mom, and then my mom freaked out because she's just like, "Oh my god, my child is gay." And, like, I guess she sat on it for a while because then flash forward to, like, I was, like, 14, and I remember distinctly that my mom, she had me painting like, dyeing her gray hairs, like, it was, like, the box dye, and she was, like, sitting on the
Mhm.
toilet seat, and I was, like, painting her hair, 'cause she was like, "I need you to do this for me, like, it's too hard." Like, my arms get tired, and I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." And, like, I'm sitting or my mom's sitting on the toilet, I'm, like, painting her hair, and she's just like, "So your aunt told me something really interesting." And I was like, "Oh, like, we're gonna gossip." I'm like, "What did she tell you?" And she's like, "Well, she told me that you're gay, that her daughter told her that you're gay." And I was just like immediately, I was like, "That fucking s" and I was immediately just like, why the fuck would she tell her mom? And she was just like, this isn't about your cousin. This is about you." And I was like, what about me? And I never told my parents because I had just assumed that they would be fine. Like if I brought home a girl, like I was very naive where I'm like, they're not gonna freak out. Like this is so like whatever.
Mhm.
It's not a big deal. Cause it truly was not a big deal to me. Like I never like had like an issue. Like even if I thought of like my brother brought home a boy or something, I would be like, hey, cool, like you're dating somebody, like somebody likes you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Um, like that never crossed my mind that my parents would freak out. So then my mom's freaking out and then I'm freaking out and I have the fucking little paintbrush in my hand and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. And then after a mild panic attack, I was just like, well, yeah, like I'm pansexual. And she's just like, what even is that? And I was like, okay, like everybody's pretty, mom, like, it's not that big of a deal, like, it really doesn't matter, like, what bits they have. I'm like, "Do I have a type? Yes. Does it matter, like, the physical form that it comes in? No." And she was just like, "Okay, I guess." And she was like, "Well, you need to tell your dad." And I was like, "I do not want to tell my father. Please don't make me do that." And she's just like, "You have to tell your dad." So then my dad fucking come homes from work, and I'm like, "Dad, like, I have to tell you something." And he's like, "What is it? My sweet little precious baby girl." And I'm like, "Well, I'm pansexual." And then that made him very uncomfortable, and he tried to break the ice and was just like, "Oh, like, does that mean that you're attracted to bread? Haha." And I was like, just immediately started crying because I was like, "You're not listening to me." And then he freaked out that I was crying, and everybody was freaked out because we're all very passive aggressive in my family, and, like, we don't ever share things ever.
Glad to know that it's on that side of the family too.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
no, definitely.
Well, not glad, but
I was about to say, "Bitch, this is the same side of the family." But, yeah, my dad was just kind of like, "Well, okay." And then, like, they never brought it up ever again. I think that they've talked about it, like, privately, especially as I've, like, become more queer in, like, physical ways, and they're just like, "My god, like, what is going on?" But they just love to ignore it, and I didn't date anybody, like, in high school, so it wasn't, like, in their face, and, like, as I became more queer, like, they definitely had, like, their little challenges, like, I was edgy at 16, and I got an undercut, which was so scandalous because half my head was shaved, and my parents were like, "Please wear your hair
mhm,
down." More so my dad, and I was just like, "No, like, this is the real me." And also started calling my dad by his first name at the time because I thought it was funny, and, like, he would get so triggered because 'cause I'd be like, "This is who I am, Jerry," and he'd be like, "Too much is happening. My child is rebelling." But yeah, so that was definitely, like, naive on my part to not, like, come out to my parents or think that I had the need to, but I was like, "I feel so safe, like, it's fine." And not that it's kind of gone downhill from there, but I think I'm very, like, private now, where I'm just kind of like,
mhm,
"It's none of your business." And, like, if they reacted that way, like, from there, I think I always knew that I would just get, like, mildly worse, which it kinda did. Not that I have beef with my parents, but, like, they definitely have not had the best reaction to me being queer and, like, getting top surgery and stuff like that, but that was, like, the first part of me, like, getting outed technically, and then
mhm,
I think it was until, like, 2021 that I was like, "Oh, I'm, like, non-binary," like, that really resonates with me, um, and it really happened after I met my partner, and I think that my partner, really, like, validated me because we met when, I was a freshman at UCLA and they were a sophomore. Um, they taught me how to make hot dogs for concessions, which is so very romantic, of course, and then I just never shut up and left them alone since we met, and then literally the pandemic happened, like, 4 months after us meeting, and, like, we've just been glued since. You know, you have, like, pandemic
that's
babies
cute.
that, like, never leave their parents. So we're like a pandemic couple where we like don't leave ever. But like I had never met somebody who was just so like who was just so like genuinely like did not give a fuck about how adults in their life like perceived them. Because I think for me growing up as like the youngest in my family unit and like I was the oldest daughter and I was like the one that's supposed to like
Make
say
it.
yeah, like make it and like save my family in terms of like academics and like being like the good
Mhm,
kid and like I'm like the representative for like my little family unit and they're like, "Oh, because like she went to UCLA and like she's really good at reading and she's really smart and she's also like, you know, like good at cooking and like cleaning and like knows how to take care of herself." They're like, "This is like the star child." No diss to my brothers, but, like, I feel like that's how my parents, like, projected me. And then I was just, like, very much a kiss ass to adults, and I really cared about what, like, adults thought of me, especially, like, older people, like, old people, and, like, you know, like, I could never be, like, queer in front of, like, old people because I was like, "Well, I don't wanna make them uncomfortable, like, it's too much for them." And I'd never met somebody who was just like, "Why the fuck would I give what this old person like, why would I care what they think?" And, like, that truly was, like,
mhm,
astounding to me because I had never met somebody like that, and it, like, genuinely shocked me because I think at first I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, that's disrespectful, like, how can you treat, like, an elder like that?" But as I, like, started to get to know my partner, I was just like, "It's actually really disrespectful to, like, have to, like, hide yourself and like manage your image so that people feel comfortable around you.
That part.
I think especially with like older family members, like you really shouldn't have to accommodate and make yourself smaller just for their comfort. And like, I mean, obviously, I understand if you have to do that in terms of like safety and stuff, but if that old lady's not
Mhm.
going to hit you, like wear the binder. It's fine. And I think I was really blessed to have grandparents that really didn't give a fuck that I was dating a woman. And like my partner has met both of my grandparents that are surviving and like they're super chill. So I think I kind of just learned where I just like met somebody who just like did not give a fuck and was just like, cut your hair. What's the worst that's gonna happen? And I was like, no, like it's like not a good idea. And they were just like, why? It's fucking hair. It'll grow back. Like you want this haircut, just cut it.
Yep.
And I was just like,
Mhm.
but bad things will happen. And they were like, name one. I me overthinking. I was like, so many bad things. And they're like, okay, name one. And I never could. And I was like, okay, I should get my haircut now. So, like, meeting my partner, I think it was truly, like, helpful to be like, "Oh, like, I am non-binary," because I had, like I think I've always identified with, like, masculinity in certain ways or, like, androgyny somewhere, like, in the middle, but I think I always just hit it
Mhm.
because it was easier to exist as, like, a cis woman or, like, a queer cis woman because I was more acceptable than being in, like, this gray middle or being more associated with masculinity. So I think I realized I was non-binary, like, in, like, maybe, like, late 2021. So it definitely took some time, um, but once I kinda realized that, like, it just like, I ran through it. I cut my hair short, which was great. I had a questionable, like, Captain America short haircut for a while. I was getting my hair done or, like, cut every, like, 6 weeks, which was crazy. If you're ever gonna cut your hair short, just be prepared to go to that barbershop every 6 weeks. Um,
That's the most frustrating part of being, like,
yes.
a masculine presenting person that
Yes.
likes
Mine's like
shaved sides.
every 2 weeks.
I hate
It's
it.
Yeah,
awful,
it's every 2
and
weeks.
I have literally been growing out my hair just because, 1, I really want to do some crazy Legolas braids on my hair. I think that would be really fun.
Okay.
2, I could not afford the maintenance of getting my hair trimmed.
Same, literally. I'm using my headphones as, like, a headband
I
right
love
now.
it. That's kinda me too, twin behavior. But yeah, I was just like and I was introduced to, like, a really great barber. If you're in the LA area, I'm plugging Liberated Salon in Atwater Village. It is owned by a very wonderful man named Brandon, who has been cutting my hair for the past like 6 years and has been cutting M's hair for the past like 12. He's an
Okay.
amazing ally. He does really, really great haircuts. And I think he was super helpful. He really like listened to me because I was just like, I want to look like a boy, but not like a super masculine boy. I want to look like a soft boy. And I would
Mhm.
show him like these like 4 pictures and he'd be like, got it, done. Like, let's do it. And then he like really helped me like get what I want. Um, and it truly brought me like gender euphoria, I think, for the first time in like such like 180 flip because like I chopped off my hair and I was like, "Oh my god, like this is amazing."
Mhm.
So I'd really recommend them if you're like looking for a good haircut, but also I was going every 6 weeks, so my wallet was like, empty.
Yeah.
But also in this journey of gender, I learned like I didn't have to go like the super hardcore like mask look to have that like sense of gender euphoria of like feeling masculine in certain days or certain times or in certain ways. So that was definitely like a very interesting journey. I have some also questionable pictures of me with like a French crop haircut. I look like a little like slutty soccer player from Britain, but that was like definitely for its time, the 6 months that I had it. But uh yeah, I think the trans mask part, like, definitely came into emergence, during that time when I was, like, cutting my hair short.
Mhm.
Um, and then, yeah, I think once I kind of, like, figured that out, my partner had top surgery in 2023, May of 2023. I literally graduated June of 2023 from college, and I remember just, like, seeing my partner after top surgery and being like, "You fucking bitch." I want your chest." And literally my partner, like, multiple times before getting surgery was like, "Hey, like, I'm worried that, like, I'm going to trigger you because I'm going to have top
Mm,
surgery and, like, you're, like, not to be mean, but, like, are going to feel jealous." And I was like, "No, babe, like, I'm not gonna feel like that. Like, it's okay. Like, this is your journey. You know, I'm here for you. Like, I'm not gonna, like, project onto you or anything like that." And then she was just like, "Okay, like, I'm just letting you know, like, I'm thinking that this might happen." And I'm like, "Okay, like, I don't think it's gonna happen." And, like, they got their surgery, and then I took them to I think it was, like, their 1-month follow-up, so they had already gotten their drains out, but I think this is, like, at the point where they were kind of able to not, like, wear tape on, like, their nipples and stuff as much. And I remember just seeing her like, the chest, and I was like, "God damn it, I'm gonna start this now." I am
yeah.
jealous, like, you read me, and I am jealous now. So I started testosterone December of 2024, and I was doing like the subcutaneous injections, which was really scary, honestly. It's like a very large needle. So if you have a needle phobia, like this is probably not the HRT journey for you. It is a lot cheaper than gel. It's just for me, it's very hard to stab myself. My little fish brain
Yeah.
is telling me not to hurt myself, so I could never
Mhm.
do it. My partner had to do it for me every week, and then they started getting freaked out because I was freaking out, and we were both just anxious about hurting each other, so I stopped that. I've been taking gel ever since, and it's not as, like, a customizable experience, I feel. I feel like with the injections, you can, like, get a more consistent, like, microdosing. I was microdosing at first on the injections. I feel like it's easier to kind of, like, tailor the exact amount that you want while doing the injections versus the gel. You literally just have to, like, pump it out of, like, a lotion bottle. It can be a little bit hard to control that, but yeah, I think it's just been a lot easier for me, like, emotionally not to have to do the needle stuff. But yeah, starting tea, I think was definitely like very, very helpful because I didn't realize how much I had been like hiding my dysphoria about my chest. Cause at the same time, I did get a binder and I had also, this is so sad, but like I had started to going to like more funerals. So because I was like having to go to these, like formal events, I started wanting to wear like men's clothing. Uh-oh. And it just was, like, freaking me out to see my boobs while I was, like, wearing a suit. So I started binding at this time, and the testosterone really helped out with that too. And then I got my top surgery actually just, like, 6 months ago. I got it early June of 2025. Since then, it's been, like, a lot better. I really don't have any, like, more gender dysphoria, honestly. I think Yeah, honestly, I really don't. I mean, taking off the titties has been such, like, an amazing experience. Like, I want, like, a man titty, not like a girl titty, you know? Like, I want, like, a little chunkiness here, but
Right.
not, like, a full boob. So, I feel like that's been very beautiful experience, and honestly, just, like, getting to walk around and just, like, chonies around my house and, like, I don't have to worry about flashing anybody anymore. That's, like, biggest blessing out there. Like, I can just walk out and, like,
Mhm.
if I have, like, the window open, it's not like, "Oh my god, like, I'm the naked neighbor." It's just like, I'm just walking around.
Dude without a shirt.
Exactly, and it's like I mean, people still, like, freak out a little bit when they see me without a shirt. They're just kinda like, "That doesn't look right." But, like, I'm not getting the cops called on me, you know? So, I can definitely, like, live with that.
Yeah.
And, what would you
And
say has been the hardest part of your transition?
Um, I think that the hardest part of my transition has been actually opening up to my parents about it. So I mentioned that I'm 24. I'm still very lucky to be, like, on my mom's health insurance, like, the little family plan. So, obviously, if I'm, like, raising if I'm, like, getting procedures done and, like, getting bills, like, my mom kinda saw it, and also, I was just like, "Well, I've never had surgery before, and I'm about to go do this, like, crazy ass surgery, like, I'm going to be out of commission for, like, a good, month," and it was gonna be, like, the summertime too. I was just like, "I can't hide that," you know? And I also, like, didn't want to. So, I think the most challenging part was definitely just, like, talking to my parents and, like, having to educate them. I mean, not that, like, my parents are old, but, like, My mom, it was easier because I think we've had, like, more of a rapport because 'cause I'm, like was raised as, like, the only daughter and I'm the youngest, and, like, moms tend to be a little bit more, like, emotionally intelligent where they might have, like, more space for you to come to them if, like, you have something to talk to them. Um, but not to put my mom on blast, but I actually think that my mom is non-binary and, like, it triggers her that I get to be, like, open and stuff. So I think for her, she was kind of just like, "Yeah, I have big boobs, like, and of course it bothers me, like, you just live with it." And I was just like, "No, you do not. Like, there are things that you can do about this, friend." So I think for her, it was more of just like a not wanting to admit that she wanted that, but that this is all hypothesis here. My mom has not confirmed this. With my dad, I think he really did take me taking hormones first. I actually told my dad first because I was like, "This bitch needs more time to, like, warm up to the idea than my mom." And immediately my dad, he just was like, "You're abusing steroids, like weightlifters?" Like, he thought that, and I was like,
Mm,
"What?" Because at the same time, I was going on my gym journey. He's like, "Are you doing this because you wanna lift more?" And I was like, "No, no." And he's like, "Well, then why?" And I was like, "Well, I'm trans masculine, and, like, I want to have more, like, masculine appearance." And he was just like, "But what is the testosterone gonna do?" So then it's like I had to give my dad, like, a science lesson, and then I had to give him, like,
mm,
a queer lesson, and then I had to give him, like, a pronoun lesson, and then my dad is also a yapper, so this was, like, many hours and multiple days of being like, "No, so this is what this means, this is what that means," and then he would ask me, like, a bunch of repeated questions, but I'll give it to my dad, he's never had a job where he has to take, like, mandatory HR like, training, so I'm like, "Nobody's, like, done this to you, nobody's explained this to you, and you only use Facebook, like, I will give you that grace." After a while, it did start getting a little bit too much for me because I think that my parents just kind of took it upon themselves and they had this like guilt that they like messed up with me or something. And they were just like, "Oh, like it's because we like neglected you or like didn't raise you properly. And like now you're going through this." And then it became this kind of weird, like you need to do more therapy. And I was like, "Bitch, I've been in therapy for like 4 years. Like, this is not an issue." And they're like, "Okay, then it's because your therapist is trying to convince you to get top surgery." And I was just like, "What? What therapist would do that?" And it's just my dad reading fake news
right.
about, like, trans children being, like, converted, you know? And then it became this, like, "Oh, like, you need to read, like, self-help books, like, self-acceptance, like, you are not your body, like, you don't have to, like, medically do stuff to your body." And then it became this, like, whole critique on, like, plastic surgery, and I was like, "Yeah, this is a plastic surgery, but, like, I'm privileged enough to do it." And I was like, things are reversible, right? Like, I'll put titties back on if I want them back. Like, I don't think that's gonna happen, but I could. And then
Yeah.
it was just like, "Well, how do you know? Like, you're so young." And then my dad tried to be like, "You're not done with puberty." And I'm like, "Bitch, I'm 23. Like, I actually am." Um, and I think they were just like, I think they really did just take it like they fucked up somewhere and it like really messed with them in terms of like how they felt as parents. And I think they just felt like really insecure. And I love my parents, like, I really do, and I'm very grateful for them, and, like, my parents and I relationship, like, 6 months ago versus now, I think is, like, a lot better, but I think that they did just have, like, a lot of, like, emotional growth and, like, immaturity that they had to get over, as well as just, like, the transphobia and homophobia that, like, they were raised with.
Mhm.
But, yeah, definitely, like, when I was kind of, like and this was, like, 8, 9-month process of, like, talking to my parents, like, every time I saw them, they're like, "Are you sure that you wanna be taking, like, hormones? Are you sure that you want this surgery?" And I was just like, "Let's talk about something else." But yeah, I think just having to be, like, upfront with my parents was, like, the really hard part, and it's very hard for me to be, like, confrontational with anybody, honestly, and this is so, like, LA gay vibes, but this, like, magnet lady that I was seeing, she was telling me that my throat chakra was blocked, so that's why I had a lot of, like, issues communicating because I had just so much, like, stuck in my throat, and, like, that's why I couldn't talk to my parents, and I was like, "You know what? I think you're right." And she was like, "You just need to start, like, yelling." And I was like, "Okay." But honestly, like, having to talk to my parents and, like, being forced to kinda, like, confront them, it has, like, helped me out a lot. And I think just kind of realizing where it's like, bitch, I'm an adult. Like, what are you gonna do? I don't even live with you. You can't kick
Mhm.
me out. Like, I'll leave. I have my own
Right.
car. So I think like definitely that journey was like that part of my gender journey was like the hardest part. But I'm really glad that it actually happened. And like it kind of forced me to be more confrontational because I think it's just a very necessary part. I think like nobody chooses to be queer, and especially if you decide to like act on it. Like, unfortunately, like people are assholes and will like say things or do things because they feel entitled to like comment on your body and like your personality and stuff. And people are just like hateful as fuck. So I'm not saying that like you have to know how to fight bitches if you're queer, but I'm kind of saying like sometimes you got to be a little quick with it, or at least have your like escape plan ready to go. You
Yeah,
know. So I think it
definitely.
kind of did give me like some ovaries in the sense where I had to like stand up and like tell people off a little bit.
Yeah, I felt the same way because like, I never really talked back to my parents, like, if they told me that what I thought was wrong, I'm like, "Okay,"
Yeah,
and then, like, go to my room and then, like, rant to my friends about it, like,
yeah,
that was it. But, like, after once I changed my name, I had, like, a conversation with them about it, and I was like, "This is who I am. This is how you guys are treating me. This is how I'm feeling because you guys are treating me this way. So either get with the program or you're out of my life." That's it. And I think after that conversation, they're like, "Oh, fuck." Like, they're serious about, like, what they're doing with their lives and
yeah.
transitioning and all that. So I feel like even though they're, like, the hardest things to do, like, I feel like parents have to be yelled at like that or talked to like
Yes.
that in order to take us seriously.
No, absolutely, and I think there is something to say too that I think because, like, we're both the youngest in our family units, we never really had to, like
Mhm.
I don't wanna say, like, fight with our parents, but, like, talk back to them because there was, like, an older sibling that, like, already did it because, like, they were older and, like, they were naturally going through that, or we did, I feel like, maybe have somebody to, like, protect us and, like, speak for us, which I think is, like, a very beautiful thing. But I think it could lead sometimes to, like, the youngest kids being sometimes more quiet, especially if you're, like, raised as a girl or, like, in a more feminine way
Yeah.
because, like, you are taught to just swallow things and, like, just take it, um, because people's comfort is more important than your own, right? So
Mhm.
I do feel like coming out as queer, and I think being perceived as like a man or like a masculine person, people do expect you to be more outspoken or like more dominating or like more like dude bro, like big chest where it's like, hey, you know? So I feel like sometimes it's nice to have that expectations because it does kind of force you to grow because, you know, advocating for yourself isn't like gender specific, but I think we do associate it with men more often. But I think it's really beautiful when women get to, like, learn that and, like, take that up, or, like, just queer people in general, or people that are, like, not cis men, because a lot of times, like, we're gonna get shit on the most, or, like, we're gonna be overlooked the most,
Yeah.
and I think especially, like, in medical spaces, or, like, if you're, you know, even just, like, getting top surgery, there's doctors out there that, like, use the wrong fucking pronouns for you, like, in your face as you're getting your titties cut off, you know? And it's like even, like, with my surgeon, who is a very wonderful straight man, not the biggest ally, but, like, you know, he knew that he was getting his bag, right? So he wanted to do a good job. He was very much just like we weren't understanding each other on, like, how I wanted my chest to look, and, like, I had, like, brought in pictures of, like, shirtless men, and I was like, "See, like, I want the nipples here, but, like, I don't want them too to the side, but I don't want them tiny either, like, I don't want, like, little tiny nipples." And he was just kind of like I could tell that he was, like, kinda lost because I was asking for a lot of different things, and I was like, "Okay, listen up. Like, this is what I want. I know that you're not God, but I want you to try your best to get this." And having to like advocate for yourself because like it's literally going to be on your fucking body for the rest of your life unless
You're
you,
paying for it.
yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
might as well get what the fuck you want, you know? So you just gotta like,
Mhm.
you gotta stand up and speak up because honestly, like you can't expect anybody to like take care of you and actually like speak up for you, especially if like you don't communicate with other people that they even have an idea of like what's going on in your mind, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
People aren't mind readers, so
That's what my therapist always tells me, and I just stare at her,
it's so hard. Yeah,
and I'm
same.
just
It's
like
so hard not to think that.
and I'm sending her the mental message where I'm like, "Read my mind, please."
So on the flip side, though, what has been the most joyful part of your transition?
Honestly, the most joyful part of my transition, I think, has been one, feeling like the sun like on my bare chest. I didn't expect to like
Mhm.
enjoy that as much as I did, but since I had surgery like in the early summer towards like the late summer, I was like experimenting with like being shirtless, like even if it was just like in the house. And I was like, "Oh my god, like this is not like a sensation that I've really experienced." Like I've never like been, really privileged to like be able to be shirtless in like a house with other people. But I always, like, was jealous of seeing men, like, at the beach, like, wearing no shirts because 'cause I'm just like, "That's less fabric, so it's, like, less to pay for," 1, but 2, I'm like, you don't have to worry about, like, flashing somebody because you're, like, in the water. I was like, "You lucky bitches," and then I went to the beach at, like, the end of summer, and I was just like, "Wow, like, this is really fucking nice, like, this is really, really wonderful." Um, and I think just being able to, like I have, like, a full body length, like, mirror in my room. And I remember, like, I would just pass it when I'm coming in and out, and I would just, like, see the lump of, like, my chest, and I was just like, "I know it's, like, not supposed to be there," you know? Like, it's just like, what is that? What is that?" And I genuinely forget sometimes that, like, I had boobs. Like, I'll see an old picture of me, and I'm just like, "Why am I so fucking big in that picture?" And I'm like, "My titties."
Literally.
Like, that wasn't, like, a weight gain that I went through the pandemic, like, that's just my titties. So, like, I think genuinely just, like, walking past the mirror now, and the only lump on my torso is, like, my fucking panza and not my titties, like, is truly so beautiful because I'm like, it's not there. Like, it is just gone. Like, I didn't
Mhm.
realize how much it fucked with me until, like, I let myself into that feeling and, like, let my brain, like, process the fact that I was, like, ignoring a whole portion of my body for so long that, like, all of a sudden it was like a flip switch, and I was just like, "Oh, I kinda fucking hate this." And then I got it taken care of, like, within, like, a year and a half or 2 years, and I was just like, "I don't have to deal with this anymore." Like, this is not, like, a heavy burden, like, physically on my body, but, like, mentally in my brain. Like, I don't have to see this
Mhm.
anymore.
100%. No, Jess and I were looking at photos, and it was, like, her best friend's graduation. Like, at the time, I, like, kinda the binder every
Mhm.
day, but other times I'm like, "No, my back can't do it."
Yeah.
Like, sports bra it is. But I remember, like, back then thinking like, "Oh, they're not that big." Like, they're not that
Yes.
noticeable. Like, trying to gaslight myself, and we were looking at photos, we're like, "Those bitches were big. Like, why did we not how did it not click?"
Wait, what cup size did you wear pre-top surgery?
I don't even
That's how
remember.
much it's just
I don't know my cup
gone.
size. Yeah.
I was
Uh-huh. Maybe I would always buy sports bras, so, like, medium, large. I would get a
oh,
medium because they fit tighter. I should probably wear a large, though.
interesting. I was a C cup, which is, like, not terribly big in the world of titties, but
Mhm.
I think yeah, I just got a, like, a chunky chest naturally, so, like, it just looked even bigger, and I was just like, "No, no."
Yeah, we were talking, like, that didn't even like, they don't look like they're supposed to be there. Like,
Right?
looking back at photos of me, like, it just doesn't like, they look misplaced. Like, those are somebody that's someone else's chest, like, that's not
Yes, like,
mine.
it's photoshopped on there or something, and you're, like, fucking with
Mhm.
somebody, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Look what I did, like, here's a funny picture I
I
made."
gave you boobies.
Yeah.
Haha.
That's how I feel about, that's how I feel about, like, my wedding pictures, cause I, like,
Yeah.
came out after we were got married and stuff like that, and I'm like, I like the pictures, cause like, you got married, but,
Yeah.
like, I'm like, "That's not
Mhm.
me, I don't know who that
Oh
is
my
at all."
gosh.
It's
Have you
crazy.
redone, like, your wedding photos or, like, have you had, like, a vow renewal, like, in your new body?
No, but we talk about it, like, we've talked about the picture thing for sure, but, like, the renewal thing, I think we'll wait on that probably, but the picture thing we've talked about.
Aw, that would be so cute, though, to have, like,
It went
an updated wedding photo.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
In a unanimous ruling in the case of Ian versus Kehoe, the Missouri Supreme Court is upholding a law which prevents Medicaid from covering gender affirming care for trans people of all ages. It's important to note that if the reason for accessing this kind of care is for other conditions such as menopause, cancer, infertility, or even PCOS, the individual's Medicare is able to cover it. This is a clear attack on transgender people.
And some positive news. A new trans rights guide published in Ireland says schools should actively respect transgender students' identities by using their preferred pronouns and name, not just on official documents, but in everyday interactions. The guidance was put together by the Irish Council for Civil Liberties with backing from the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission and aims to explain what rights transgender students and adults have under current laws. The guide also makes it clear that students should be allowed to use bathrooms and changing facilities that match their gender identity, and that failure to uphold these rights could potentially open schools and other organizations to legal action for discrimination.
In more good news, this past Friday, Virginia Senate voted to repeal a state amendment which defines marriage as only between a man and a woman. In a 26-13 vote, Senate Joint Resolution 3 would ban the Senate from denying marriage license to same-sex couples and force the state of Virginia to recognize any lawful marriage between two adults, regardless of sex, gender, and race. So, if you live in Virginia, keep a lookout for this resolution during the November 2026 elections.
If you want to read more into these stories, the links to the articles will be in the description below.
And what does being non-binary mean to you? Or how do you view your gender or describe it?
That's honestly like a very hard question to me, like for me to answer, just because I mean, obviously I know like in a technical sense what non-binary means, where it's just like not identifying
Mhm.
with either binary. Where it's like you can be agender, you can be gender queer or gender fluid, you can be, kind of like this vague like middle. I think it's gender is beautiful because it truly is such like just a personal experience, and it's beautiful too because it really just does very like on so many factors, like your culture, where you're raised. It really matters, I think, with like your socioeconomic status and like what you have access to. I think it really also matters like what languages you speak, because you literally have different words to describe this thing, this experience. So for me, non binary is definitely this like really big, beautiful gray zone in the spectrum of gender. And I think it looks different for everybody. For me, it means having top surgery and having hella body hair, but also still being really into wearing skirts and showing off my hairy legs at the same time. It means occasionally wearing makeup, but also letting like my little mustache hairs grow out, or like having my little like 5 o'clock shadow scruff. It means sometimes dressing up like, do you guys remember how they made like Disney Channel Tom Girl stars look like in 2005, like Allison Stoner in
Oh, yeah.
what's that called? Oh my gosh, not High School Musical, Camp Rock. No, in Camp Rock, where she's, like, wearing, like, the little sideways hat, and she has, like, her little cargo plaid shorts and, like, her little fuck ass sneakers and stuff. Like, sometimes gender is that, sometimes it's me buying a $200 Ralph Lauren velvet dress because I'm like, "This shit's gonna eat for Christmas." It really does matter, I feel like, based on what I'm watching, like, what cultural references I'm kind of consuming. Um and just, like, what kind of pretty I want to look like. Like, do I want to look like am I trying to give, like, really pretty, like, Catwoman, like, Selena Kyle vibes? Am I trying to give, like exposing myself, am I trying to give, like, Heated Rivalry, like, little Beefcake Gym Boy vibes? Like, it really just depends on the day, you know?
I love that fucking show. I sobbed at the finale. Sorry, sidetrack.
No, it's okay.
I sobbed.
I unfortunately have been eating it up as well, which also has triggered my gender dysphoria now because 'cause I'm like, "I need to go to the gym," but I'm like, "That's a different conversation."
Yeah.
How are
Mhm.
queer bodies presented in the media. Um, but yeah, I think like non-binary is just like a really beautiful kind of like I love that I get to like pick and choose what I like about like style, um,
Mhm.
and like jewelry and like clothes and shoes, as well as like my hair and like my makeup and like my facial jewelry too and my facial hair. I really just like how I can work outside like the gender expectations of like male and femaleness, and I can move where I want. But I also feel comforted now that even if I'm like looking very feminine, like I know that I'm still trans masculine. Like people can't take that away from me, even if I have long hair and like my voice is high and I wear like heels occasionally or I wear a skirt, like I still feel comfort that like I know who I am in that sense. And even if people perceive me a particular way, like
Mhm.
it doesn't erase that. And I think I had a really hard time with that for a while. And which is why I went to like the hyper mask, like short hair. Like I didn't wear skirts for like honestly maybe like 6 years because I was just so like, oh, like people will perceive me as like a woman, especially because like this was like
Mhm.
pre-binder and I was like very curvy and stuff. Um, but now I'm just kind of like, now that I have no titties, like I get to pick and choose, I think a little bit more and I confuse people and they don't perceive me so quickly as like a woman and stuff.
I still have a bunch of crop tops that I haven't had the courage of, like, wearing out. Like, I'll put it on, they're like, "Oh, yeah, I look good in this," and I'm like, "Alright,
Time to
not
take
to
it
go in
off.
public with it? Nope."
Okay, see,
Yeah.
this is where you need to watch old movies sometimes because I feel like you need to watch, like, really, like, cringy but good high school movies from the '80s because then you get to see where, like, men were allowed to be feminine and wear crop
Used
tops.
to dress like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it really does, like masculinities and feminities change with, like, race and sex and, like, time. And, like, I was freaked out, for example, like, I didn't know for a long time if I should wear, like, bikini or, like a one piece to the beach. And when I had top surgery, I was just like, "Oh, like, I don't want, like, ugly ass board shorts either." Like, I still wanna look cute, you know? Um, I started watching, like, movies from the '50s because I had this, like, odd phase with Rock Hudson, and in the '50s, like, a lot of times, like, they wore, like, short ass, like, little booty shorts. Like, you could see every fucking nook and cranny, and I was like, "Oh my god, that is me." So now I'm, like, preparing for summer or I'm also preparing for Coachella, and I'm trying to look for, like, vintage inspired swimwear from the '50s where it's just, like, tiny ass little board shorts or '80s dolphin shorts. I haven't decided yet what the vibe will be. But, like, truly, I'm just like, gender is a construct, wear what you want, wear what makes your ass look good. Like, I don't know, I'm just kind of like, I feel like the more you, like, dive into gender, you're just kind of like, "This shit is so fucking stupid." Like, it's truly so interesting to see people, like, hyper fixate on something because they think it indicates, like, gender, and it's like, that is literally a piece of fabric. This does not have meaning. You put meaning onto it, like which, of course, is, like, super helpful if you, like, wanna feel masculine and you're wearing something that is, like, traditionally associated with masculinity, but at the same time, it's, like, just a fucking
right.
shirt, you know? It's, like, not that
Yeah.
serious.
And then we kinda, talked about it at the beginning, but how is it being in, like, a T for T relationship? Do you feel like it has helped you understand what your gender is?
I personally love being in a T for T relationship. I will be honest though, this is like my first like relationship ever. Like I had like, you know, I like talked to other people before, like men and women, but I was just like, nah, like I'm very like I'm an air sign, so I'm kind of an asshole when it comes to dating. I'm very like aloof. I'm very just like, I don't like it. Goodbye. But I think meeting my partner, both of us like going on this like trans masculine and non-binary journey, I think that it's truly beautiful that, like, we're both trans and, like, we see each other because even though, like, I'm a trans masc person, like, I love girlhood and, like, I would never want to, like, let go of that and, like, the experiences that I had with girlhood because I
Yes.
don't associate with boyhood. Like, I didn't have that experience, and even though, I really resonate with, like, a lot of experiences of, like, masculine people or kind of, like, how gender is projected for masculine people, like, I will never let go of girlhood, and, like, I think having somebody who understands, like, the nuances of that experience, but doesn't identify as, like, a woman, but still sees me and, like, my experiences of girlhood is, like, really fucking beautiful, and not that I don't think that, like, a cis person couldn't understand that nuance, but I think somebody who has, like, that lived experience and, like, embodied that as well, and, like, our bodies, like, kind of had very similar experiences of being, like, raised, like well, my partner's Salvadoran, but, like, Latina and Catholic, the youngest of our families, kind of the ones that were expected to, like, succeed academically and stuff like that, but then having to, like, break the bad news to our families where it's like, "Hey, we're not gonna
Yeah.
do these things," or it's like, "We're going to do it, but it's gonna be in, like, this particular way." I just feel, like, very, very seen. Like, a truly, like, I think that meeting my partner was, like, a blessing because I think that I would have come out much later if I didn't meet them when I did.
Mhm.
And I really do think that, like, I would have had just, like, a lot of shitty relationships that, like, I was lying to people about, like, who I was because I would have felt too much shame to, like, actually open up and explore my identity. I think that, uh, as, like, a people pleaser, like, I really would have just, like, ran with this shit for, like, another 10 years, and then, like, it finally would have, like, hit me when I was, like, 30, that, like, I was unhappy. Um, so I think, being in a relationship with another trans person, it just we're both there for each other, and I think that we have, like, less expectations of each other of how we should act in terms of, like, gender. So we're both able to explore very comfortably, like, our identities without a sense of feeling like we're gonna, like, upset our partners or, like, disappoint them in some way, that we're, like, not who we're supposed to be or, like, we're not that, like, who we married or, like, signed up to be with them. Um, we're kind of
Yeah.
just like, "Hey, like, I'm really into this right now. I'm just letting you know." Um, might change, might not.
Yeah, like the fluidity of your
Yeah.
guys's relationship.
Yeah, and I think it's just really nice to, like it's this all goes back to fashion, but we're both masculine in different ways, like, fashion-wise too, so I think it's really fun to get to, like, play with that, and we kind of see, like, what does masculinity mean for that person versus the other, and, like, how do we
Yeah.
show it, like, in our bodily adornment? So I think that's also really fun too, and it kind of challenges us to expand on our notions of gender too, so that we don't really get, like, stuck in a box by accident either. I think a lot of times, like, we could have the potential to, obviously we're surrounded by, like, cis het patriarchal society. Like, you're gonna pick up on it, and, like, no matter what, there's no really stopping it. So you have to actively try to unlearn this stuff. So I think it's really helpful too to have somebody who's actively trying to unlearn it with you and kind of like create their own definitions. To experience life and like love with somebody who can do that or wants to do that is very, very helpful. And I think it really forces us to like understand who we are, but to also communicate to other people who we are and like how we want to be treated. Also, I love confusing people in public. Another thing about T for T relationships, a lot of people are just like, "But who's the man?" Because I'm taller than my partner, but they look more masculine than I do. But then depending on who
Mhm.
dresses more masculine, like, people are just kind of like, "What is going on?" Also,
I love confusing
it's
people.
great. I love to be mysterious. As I mentioned, I'm a Scorpio rising, so I live off of that. It's also very crazy because I did not realize how many gay men would hit on us because they think that we're men or we look masculine enough that they're, like, ready to roll with it. Especially, like, older gay men. It is very interesting. I don't know. I'm kind of like, "Do you think that we're, like, twinks or something?" Like, I'm very intrigued. I've never had enough
Probably.
but I don't think that I look like a twink. I don't know. Um, I guess the internet will let me know, but, yeah, I haven't had enough, like, gunness to ask somebody and be like, "S Who do you think I am? Like, how are you perceiving me?" Like a research level? Like, this isn't like, I'm not interested, but, like, what do you think about this? Um
Right.
But yeah, like there's definitely been a lot of cis gay men who are like intrigued and occasionally questioning cis women who are just like, it's a very interesting experience, honestly. But this kind of goes into the whole like confusing people bit that I kind of love and I personally.
Mhm. I see so many it's mainly kids, but, like, they'll see me from behind, and obviously, like, my hair is very feminine, wavy, whatever, and then when, like, they look at me from, like, the front, they're like, "Wait, what's going on?"
Do kids call
Like,
you
I can see the gears
turning?
turning in their head.
Yeah, honestly, I love my like let me add this to my definition of non-binary. Me personally, as a non-binary individual, I want to exist to kind of make kids like tug at their parents' t-shirts and be like, "Who is that?" I really kind of want to exist to like be that person that challenges kids and like whatever they're learning. And I don't mean this like in a like scary or like harmful way. I just genuinely mean like I think kids especially are so easy to pick up like gender binaries because you're learning it for the first time and you're genuinely just like being
Right.
taught in schools where it's like girls pink dresses, boys blue pants, and like that's how their brains interpret things. And especially because like at a young age, like you're not really going to pick up on like the nuances of humans yet. And I feel like it's such like an important experience for like young queer kids to see that like butch lesbian in public or like a non-binary individual or somebody who's just like very evidently fruity and like your brain just kind of stops
Yeah.
because you're just like I've never seen somebody like that before and I like it, like that's so interesting.
My goal is to be the person that, like, you kid would see at the mall and be like, "I wanna look like them when
Me
I'm older."
too. Me too. I remember just like seeing queer people growing up and I remember like the first time that I watched RuPaul's Drag Race with my gay uncle and I was just like, wait, this is the same fucking person? Like, you're telling me that, like, this person that I perceive as a man is now dressed as, like, a woman, and they look great doing both? That's
Right.
crazy.
They always look great doing both, I hate it.
I know, and I was just like,
I'm so jealous.
"Yes." Exactly, and I was just like, "Well, now I know." But, yeah, I love, like, kids coming up to me and, like, asking me questions, like, they're just like, "Are you a girl or a boy?" And I kind of love to just be like, "Well, why do you think I'm a girl? Or why do you think I'm a boy?" Because I think curiosity is like so precious and it really helps kids like I think also just reflect and think for themselves, how do they perceive
Mhm.
like boys and girls and like what does that mean? I think ever since that I kind of came out to my little cousins and since they've known my partner as well, in the beginning when they first met her, they were ranging from like kindergarten to like fourth grade. They're like, "Oh, that's Miss M." And I was like, "Why are you calling her Miss? First off, like this bitch is 18, chill." And then they were like, "But like she's a girl, so we have to call her Miss." And I'm like, "Well, not necessarily. Like, you don't have to have, like, a title first off. You can just call them." And then they're kind of just like, "Well, why not Miss?" And then my partner kinda took over and was just kind of like, "Well, it doesn't bother me if you call me Miss, but you can also call me Mister, or you can, like, not do that at all." And, like, it just blew their minds where they're just kind of like, "What?" I actually think it's really important for kids to see, like, queer people, though, and kind of, like, have age appropriate curious, safe conversations where they can kind of like explore that, especially when there's just like naturally a lot of queer people in LA County and like Orange County and stuff.
Right.
Kids are going to see somebody who's gay. Like it's just common. And I think it's really,
Little bit of exposure therapy would never
yes,
hurt anybody.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I think it's also very important to just like build empathy. And it's just like you can ask a respectful question. Like I don't think most queer people would be upset if you ask like, "What are you?" Or "What are your pronouns?" Like, I don't really think that most people would have an issue with that. I think it's really important to just teach kids how to, approach with, like, curiosity and, like, not accusation or, like, hate and, like, respect and stuff, so shout out to being visibly queer for little kids to be inspired.
Hell yeah.
And would you say you feel represented in the LGBTQ community?
That's a crazy question. In mainstream media, I would say no, just because I feel like if there is like non-binary representation, I feel like it always tends to be like a really tall, skinny AFAB person with like a shaved head. I don't know why that like image comes to mind, but like I kind of feel like I get that. And I think that there's always going to be nuances to somebody's identity. So it's like maybe there's somebody that maybe like looks like me, but we're not from like the same culture or like we're not like the same age group or there's just like some difference where I'm just like, oh, it's like kind of something. I think that as I'm getting better with like what content I consume, I'm kind of crafting like an algorithm that is being more representative of me and how I perceive myself. So I feel like I found a really good amount of people like on TikTok and Instagram who are queer in some way that I feel like represented. So I think in mainstream media, it's hard to like represent a lot of people in general, especially like in terms of like TV and like what's consumable for people and like what's going to sell. But I think in my personal life, I'm getting a little bit better at kind of finding the representation that I want to be surrounded by, which I think is really beautiful. I think especially as I kind of continue my journey specifically with like being transmasc and stuff. Finding a lot of people who are transmasc or like in a T for T relationship, but like they're both like AFAB. And I'm like, thank you. Like I love to see that, especially if they're like black and brown, because I think AFAB can be very different for white people. And I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm light skinned as fuck. But I think it's also just like culturally, like I don't associate myself with like white American culture. Like I am very much like Latina. I do feel like the differences, but yeah, I think like being able to like have the beauty of like interacting with people and like consuming their content and stuff, I can really like tailor who I want to be surrounded by and like what I want to see.
Yeah. And what are some of the different ways you embrace your culture but still stay true to your identity?
So me, I'm very much I don't think I'm like a no sabo kid, but I'm definitely like second gen, which is like a very different experience. I don't have like an immigration story that's like close to me. Um, and like I think like the main pillars of like my family who connected me to Mexico have like passed away. So it's a little
Yeah.
bit different to like navigate that experience without those people, without like, you know, your elders. But I mean, I do consume like a lot of like traditional Mexican media. I think it's also really important to me to follow a lot of queer people from Mexico because I love
Yeah.
learning like queer specific, Mexican specific like language. I will enlighten you with some of my favorite words. I love I am a self-identified tortillera. I love to be called a tortilla maker because I think it's so fucking funny for like lesbians to be called that. Because I like didn't know what that meant for a long time. And then somebody just went like this, and I just started fucking busting up laughing because I'm like, okay, I get it now. And then when I was single, I found this content creator who was just like, "Oh, me voy a hacer una puti vuelta," and I was like, "What the fuck is that?" And it's literally like slut walk. So she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna like go walk around the club, do my little slut walk," and I was just like, "Only a queer person would create that. Like, that's not a straight thing to say."
Definitely
So
not.
I love like finding like different cultural words that are created. I think that like Latinos in general have the best food in the world, but I think Mexicans specifically. So I really do love to like cook and bake like regional stuff from like the different states that like my parents are from. So literally this week, like I was making tamales with my mom's side of the family. I'm also very like spiritual. I'm not religious, but I am very spiritual and I do think that I have like a very strong connection with like my ancestors. So I do have like an altar in my house for them. So I'm always like leaving them like little trinkets and like treats and stuff. And I've like freaked out other people because like they think that I'm a witch, which like I think I'm like low key beginning this journey that I am. But I am like very spiritually connected with my ancestors. So I've had a couple people say that like that they were like mad at me and that they felt like a presence in their room after. And I was just like, oh, bro, it's like it's my friends watching out for me. Like they're telling you not to fucking shit talking behind my back. Um, and definitely, I think like obviously Spanish is like a colonizer's language, but still actively trying to reteach myself Spanish because I forgot it when I was a kid. And like definitely listen to like music from where, you know, my family's from and stuff is really, really great. But yeah, I think I don't want to be like there's no shame in being like a no sabo kid. I mean, I think everybody has different experiences and like there's never somebody or something that should like take away your like Latinidad, even if it's like your second gen or third gen or later on. I think for me personally
Right.
though, it is very much important to continue making relationships with like my older family members who are from Mexico still or actively live in Mexico, visiting as much as I can, consuming like the food and baked goods from there. And I think actively just trying to make like connections with people like online and in person and supporting like indigenous people there as well, not just, you know, the white Mexicans and stuff like that. And just like honoring all the different ways that you can be a part of this culture, even though there is kind of like a distance between people that are born there versus born here first gen, second gen, and so on and stuff.
And what hopes do you have for the future for yourself and for the trans community?
Um, for myself, I really do hope that I kind of continue like my journey of queerness, not just like for myself, but also as like a birth worker, somebody who's like in medicine in a particular way. I'm trying to do a lot of research right now on people who are like trans masculine or trans men, but they decide to like have a biological child. I think that's a very interesting experience that somebody can go through.
Mhm.
And I think it's beautiful for anybody to want to have a kid. But I can imagine that it can be a little challenging if you don't necessarily associate yourself with a feminine word like mom or mother or that kind of life experience. And you're surrounded by people who only use the word like mom or female in medicine. There's a lot of birth
Mhm.
workers out there that are actively trying to use like, pregnant person who's giving birth, the person who's carrying, to really make space for these people that don't necessarily associate themselves with like mom or mother or like a feminine kind of way. Even for like non-binary people, I think it's really important to me personally that, these parents to be or parents are seen. I have never been pregnant. I don't plan on being pregnant. I don't want like my own children biologically, but I think it's a really beautiful journey for somebody to like take up if they're interested in taking it. And I think it's and can sometimes be like an extra challenge if you're queer. So I really do want to like continue that and be able to help people out with that. Personally, I mean, I really hope to continue like my gay as fuck relationship with my partner. You know, not just for ourselves, but also for like the people that's surrounded by. I think that we have caused a lot of ruffled feathers and like our families and stuff, but like in a good way. I think we've caused a lot of people to kind of think twice about how they speak, how they interact with other people, or they don't interact with people. And like my little cousins as well. I think it's really beautiful to kind of be that funky little queer auntie or Theo that they're like, yeah, that's just like they're just like that. They're just built different. But like they're able to have that kind of like experience. I think that's really helpful for kids. For the queer community in general, I think it was really hard, like, as somebody who's, like, always lived in LA, like, I kinda forget that, like, people are, like, actively racist, like, that sounds so stupid, but, like, I kinda forget that people are, like, actively racist and, like, homophobic and transphobic. I'm used to, like, California Republicans, which is, like, I think a way more, like, mild version of, like,
Mhm.
conservative. So I do forget that there's, like, queer people who are, like, actively, like, racist, homophobic, transphobic. Just because you're queer does not, like, mean that you're not an asshole in other ways. So I really do hope
Right.
that for queer people specifically too, that they continue to, like, unlearn, like the oppressive systems that are at force. I really hope that they find peace and comfort in like their identities and like they feel space to be safely themselves without projecting hate onto other people. I think it's very hypocritical sometimes when, members of the queer community are like biphobic. I'm just like, or transphobic. I'm just like, this isn't clicking, unfortunately.
Mhm.
You do realize that you're hating on other people for the same reasons that you're bitching that people are hating on you, pretty much. So I really hope that, like, the queer community is like very dysfunctional and I think not as like together as people seem to think or want to think. So I really do hope that, you know, we can have like more solidarity and like respect for one another and like the different ways that we're queer. But yeah, I think, peace and love, all the good hippie shit. That's what I want.
So that's a wrap on today's episode, Two Guys Unfiltered. A huge thank you to Evelyn for sharing their story. If today's episode resonated with you or reminded you of your own, we would love to hear from you. Click the link in the description to fill out the form if you're interested in being our next guest.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who needs it. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other. Bye.